Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the new episode of podcast with BL Inside Circle. Myself, Dheer Dedia. This is Akshat Bansal. And as always, our guest this time is interesting because he is currently an associate editor at Network 18. He goes by the brand name of Mota Bhai. His real name is, of course, Yatin Mota. And he is currently working with Network 18, but he has had more than a decade of experience in ET Now and as well as Bloomberg Quint. He was a research analyst in ET Now, and right now he's an associate editor, also a research analyst, and more than a decade experience in stock market and equity market. So let me welcome Yatin sir directly. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing, sir?
All fine. Heavy monsoons in Mumbai. I don't know what is the state in Shillong, but it is a pretty windy day today here in Mumbai.
Yeah. So no, we are in Kozhikode right now, and Kozhikode mein, so in Kerala, monsoons are always it's all around the year, and currently in campus it's really beautiful,
Wow.
but not as floody as in Mumbai usually. So let's start with your journey. You are a pass out from Podar College, and then you did your MBA Finance from NMIMS. And then, how did this journey happen in equity market? You are a research analyst since a decade now, and associated with TV, associated with the entire stock market learnings. You are a big celebrity on Twitter. So just give a quick run through about your journey, please.
So, Dheer, if you look at my journey, I was a commerce graduate in R.A. Pudar. It is one of the finest colleges in which you can have commerce studies in Mumbai. And obviously, post my commerce graduation, I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people who were in the capital markets, the stock markets. Obviously, being from a Gujarati community to Kutchi community, there is always an inclination towards stocks, and a lot of things in and around you. The ecosystem in and around you is towards the capital markets, and talks about the capital markets, and that is how I after spending 1 or 2 years post my commerce graduation into the stock markets, understanding, spend some time in the family business operations also. Then I thought of doing a post graduation, and obviously at NMIMS we had a specialization course in the capital markets along with the finance MBA part, and we were very thankful to that university NMIMS that gave us a platform really to help understand the financial markets better, finance better, and the kind of uh, summer projects we did in and around the capital markets made us tilt towards the capital markets. And obviously, during the days at NMIMS and the second year placement, I was lucky to get through the Times Group, and it's a very large organization, and they were just launching, their channel ET Now at that time. And fortunately, I was offered, to either join ETIG, which is the Economic Times Intelligence Group. At that time, there were analytical things that they used to do in the paper, or join ET Now. So I chose to join ET Now. And at that time, when I was there in the team, we gave tough competition to our peers like CNBC, and we were doing pretty well at that time at ET Now, and almost working 7-8 years in ET Now, and then I moved on to two new assignments, and now currently at CNBC Awaaz, which is a Network 18 company. Obviously, Network 18 is one of the largest media organizations in the country, and obviously we are aware of the CNBC brand and CNBC Awaaz brand, which the company incorporates. So it has been a great journey so far, and from the commerce studies to MBA to CNBC Awaaz, everything has been smooth so far. Obviously, we plan a lot of things when we do our MBAs. के placement का क्या होगा, CTC कितना होगा. A lot of things come up to your mind when you are a student, but once you have the direction that you need to move in this sector, you want to move into this particular industry, I think it really works well for you. And obviously things are very competitive in business schools. You all must be aware. So just hold on your horses, probably chase your passion, and don't really worry about your placements and career. If you're focused and dedicated, I think, God willing, you should be able to achieve your goals.
From an MBA graduate, for example, most of the MBA graduates, or MBA students do not come from a commerce background. They
Right.
have absolutely zero or very very low financial acumen about stock market or about investing. So, asking this from a personal point of view, what should one do if they are a beginner, amateur in investment, or they want to do, but they have no idea where to start in stock market, what to do?
So, I always used to pull legs of my colleagues who were engineers and, those who were MBBS. We had students who were doctors, engineers, IT majors, whole host of diversified people, join the Indian top business schools, And I always used to say, to my engineers friend, आप लोग MS कर लेते यार और कुछ कर लेते. Why do you guys join a finance course wherein you have no understanding just to get a placement? And when there used to be a session on quants, they used to beat us hands down. We always used to co-learn. When there was an account or finance class, we used to help our colleagues, and the engineer colleagues, when we had a quant class, they used to help us on that front. So MBA is a fun part, a fun journey. Obviously, a lot of engineers and a lot of non-finance or non-commerce students do join the MBA courses and finance courses. Obviously, they do excel well, moving ahead. The only advice is that you have to keep learning, unlearning a lot of things. And, obviously, there is no requirement to be a core finance guy, when you are from an engineering background. Obviously, there is a worry point. But I think if you have the basics right, I don't think so there is any need to panic or any need to really go deep or deep dive into finance. That is not at all required in a postgraduate course. What you need to do in your postgraduate studies is more to focus on your passion, more to focus on your core strength, and more to focus on your communication skills. Because when you are into a placement mode, or when a lot of hirers are coming into your campus, they really look at your overall personality, your confidence levels. How really do you tackle a problem, how better can you provide a solution. So a lot of people do mistaken themselves that I want to become a investment banker, I want to join a $1 billion startup, I want to do only this in my life career. You have to be with an open mind when you're doing your post graduation studies. And as your to answer to your question, simply put, if you're a non-finance guy doing a finance MBA or doing a finance course, nothing to worry. If you have your concepts right, if you have your basics right, that should put you in a very comfortable positions versus your peers.
Actually, yes, thank you for the insight. But I was asking about the investment journey. For example, I'm an MBA graduate. I want to start investing.
Yeah. So you need to understand the concept first. That is what I said. See, the Indian capital markets are growing. In India, only 2 to 3% of the overall population invests in the market. Today, also, if you look at the stats, there are hardly 4 to 5 crore Demat accounts which are there in the country, which are being opened. I'm not talking about active, but I'm giving a gross count. Obviously, the financial literacy in the country is quite low, despite having a very good saving rate. So India has a very good saving rate, but we always do prefer real estate. We do always prefer gold. We do always prefer fixed deposits. But when it comes to the young generation, a lot of them are tech savvy. Uh, when a non-finance guy or a what do you call a basic learner in the capital markets need to go in that direction, what we used to do in our colleges and we used to do in our post-graduation studies, and that is what my friends and colleagues who have been in the non-finance background did, is read a business newspaper every day. That is what will keep you up to date on the current affairs, up to date with your career goal points. And you also need to do a lot of content hunting on the social media, because at our time we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have a lot of these social media platforms, which are now, much more accessible and much more bigger. Things were evolving at our time. It is not that they were completely disappeared or they were not there, but YouTube today has much more content on capital markets than it had in 2008-10. Twitter has a lot of information which is available. So you just need to hunt information, analyze information, keep reading, especially the pink papers. If you don't have a Economic Times, you can read a Business Standard, you can read a Financial Express, you can get a lot of content which is there on their websites as well. You can go to moneycontrol.com, you can watch business channels. So that is how you at least have an understanding and a direction where the capital markets are headed. And probably then you can once that base building is done, you can actually start passive investing and then active investing.
Now, since we're at the point of data analysis, so my question here goes, how does one make sense of conflicting data? Like at one end, we have Zomato's EPS being negative throughout the whole year, being valued at rupees 41 by Damodaran sir, and
Yeah.
then its current stock price hovering around 120 onwards. So how do you make sense out of three sets of data which are actually conflicting in themselves?
Hmm. So in the stock markets, we have two concepts. One is a fair value, and one is a market price, right? You may do a lot of DCF, and you can do a lot of modeling in and around the stock market data points, earnings, and a lot of other things. Zomato, particularly, if you talk about Ashwath Damodaran, he had a model in which he had a fair value of 41 rupees. Obviously, there are other listed companies in the US which even trade expensive than Zomato, because the addressable market is very big. And there is a market price. So there is a fair value to your model, which is 41 rupees. And there is a market price, which is 120 rupees. And there is always be a inefficient market. Markets are never, that efficient, that you put a model and the market will probably follow that model. It never happens in real life, right? It is something like, your salary. You may be equally hardworking, but one of your colleagues may get, X amount of salary, and you may get a X amount of salary, So there is no comparison in real life. Things do evolve. And talking specifically about Zomato, people have a lot of questions on their business model. Let me remind you, in the 90s, when Jeff Bezos started, Amazon, he was only selling books. And at that time, every investor used to say that Amazon is overvalued. And today, from diapers to, big Dyson air coolers, air purifiers, you name it and it is on Amazon, right? So things keep on evolving. You never know when these things will become big. There is always an optionality value in these securities. So there might be a fair value and there might be an option value. What is option value? As I told you, Amazon used to only sell books, but it had an option value that it could sell multiple products on their platform, right? And today, the millennials, everybody would have a, Amazon app on their mobile phones, right? And, probably a millennial would have ordered at least once on Zomato, once on Amazon. So that is the power of platform. When we were in college, we used to have that Kali Pilis. Today, just you say Uber Go, you say book on Ola, and the car straight away comes below your building, right? You don't have to show your hand. Arey bhai, ruk jao, yahan chaloge kya? So the addressable market is big. There is always an optionality value, and the market really looks at the option value, right? The opportunity which the company will provide in the future. So the market always would be futuristic. They always would tend to reward companies which are futuristic and have a platform. And obviously, if you go by the book, you will find a lot of things in the marketplace which are overvalued. So stock markets is not a place where you go by the book. You have to have some logic. You have to have certain, flows. A domestic investor may not buy Zomato, but the FII or the foreign investor would always only want to buy certain tech companies, right? So there are various tech funds also globally which do invest in these companies. So I'm not surprised how Zomato is valued at 1 lakh crore. Probably it can go up further from here as well. I'm not asking you to buy or sell securities, but there are certain ways and means and opportunities which come in the way of a company, in the life of the company. It may go bust, or it may be 10 times larger than what it is today. And we have seen it with Apple, we have seen it with Microsoft, we have seen it with Amazon, that companies evolve. And if you talk about Apple, it was a computer or a hardware company. It went into mobile phones, and that is the largest product right now with the company. So companies do evolve, and market do reward such companies when it comes to the capital markets.
One of the key insights that we had here was, Zomato being the first platform-based company to actually go for an IPO. So that's one of the factors, I was reading about, that it actually triggered the Indian stock markets to actually recognize that fact.
Right.
And that's
Yes,
that
and there are a lot of
maybe
companies which
one
are
of the
coming up with
reasons.
IPO. We have Paytm, which will come up with the IPO.
Yeah.
We will have a car app company which has a buy sell option for cars, second-hand cars, new cars, that is coming with an IPO. So a lot of these new age companies and would come into the capital markets, and market has its own way of boom and bust. So there may be reward and there may be risk, but obviously times have changed, things have changed, and you would see such companies like Zomato more frequently coming to the capital markets.
Now, the next question is a bit personal. So, when I started this MBA journey, the first course that we have in term one is accounting. And and what the professor usually says there is the accounting standards are made such that you understand the financial reports. And I was like, okay, being educated, I still don't understand most of the report that is being there. So, what are your thoughts on the Indian accounting standards as of now?
So obviously, my wife is a chartered accountant. I do not can talk about the accounting standards. I'm not an expert in that field. But if you talk about accounting standards, what the Chartered Accountancy Institute or the CA Institute has done is it has formalized and standardized a lot of processes. You have a US GAAP, you have Indian GAAP, you have accounting standard, you have tax standards. A lot of things keep on evolving in the accounting world. And as a country, we have done a great job. We have this wonderful chartered accountant institution, which is recognized internationally as well. And when it comes to accounting standards, obviously there are certain things which are done by certain professionals in a malified way. They do always find the wrong way to do the right thing, or the right way to do the wrong thing. So a lot of things are subjective. A lot of standards are designed with a flaw. There are certain standards which want to eliminate flaw. So it is an evolving situation, and as students, we need to keep ourselves updated with the latest standards. Obviously, to ensure that there is independence, there is accuracy, there is ethics involved in such standards. So this could be a question which you can ask a chartered accountant. But when it comes to the accounting standards, you have to stick to the basics. As an MBA student, there is no need to get into the complex world of accounting, because it is a subject in itself. And obviously, we have chartered accountants to handle those things. But when it comes to accounting standards, obviously, you have seen a lot of fraud in the capital markets also with respect to accounts. And there are certain clean companies which have greater disclosure, with respect to accounts. So it's a double-edged sword, if I may put it so. So really, it is up to the auditors, the chartered accountants, and a lot of individual professionals, which put everything into place. So it is not a single person who is handling all these things. So don't worry, when you get placed into a organization, there will be a dedicated team to take care of that. Obviously, you have to have a knowledge of that part as well. But when it comes to accounting standards, there are very good contents available online. There are various books you can refer to. Obviously, you can ask your professors also if you have any doubt. But the thing is that you have to be, the accounts have to be accountable. That is what the standards are all about. and nothing more.
Okay, so we have one of our classmates by the name of Deepak Kukreja, who was very keen and very excited when we announced in the class that you are our next guest. So the next question is from Deepak.
Yeah.
So welcome, Deepak.
Hi,
Thank you,
Deepak.
Thea. Hello, sir. Sir, this is nice interaction with you. I was just listening in the background. So, I have just one question regarding the latest trends in the market. So, I have three latest trends I could see. One was cryptocurrency, that everyone
Right.
is now going gaga about crypto, but still India is not ready to legalize it, and we maybe move to a digital currency now. So, what are your views on it? Second is passive versus active investing. Now
Okay.
everyone is going, should we go passive, should we go active? And third is the US stocks. Now everyone wants to start and go into the US markets and not just stay in the Indian market. We want to go and invest, but still the regulations in the Indian market are not very clear to the retail public. So I have these three questions that I could see in the latest market trends.
Yeah. So, what was your first question regarding?
Regarding cryptocurrency,
Currency. So, see, as a media person, we always ask our guest about cryptocurrencies. It's a very complex, subject. Not many of us understand. And, if it's a complex subject you cannot understand, you should stay away from it. That is how, the capital markets also work. If you don't understand Zomato, you don't buy Zomato. If you don't understand Reliance Industries, you don't buy Reliance Industries. So you have to. I in my communication class and in my MBA course, one of our professors used to always talk about KISS. So what is KISS concept is keep it simple and stupid, right? Don't try to overanalyze a situation, because overanalysis always leads to paralysis in the capital markets. When it comes to cryptocurrencies, you can see the wild swings, it generates, one day it moves up by 10%, the other day it moves down by 30%. If you look at global currencies, be it the US dollar, be it the British pound, Japanese yen, or the Indian rupee for that matter, the volatility is hardly, half a percentage point every day. If the central bank has an action, probably it could be more. But the concept of a currency, because it's cryptocurrency, is it should provide stability. If you talk about gold, it always has historically provided safety for investors and stability for investors. You don't see gold in normal times or over large periods of time giving a 50 to 100% swing up or down. The move is there, but it is gradual over long periods of time. If you talk about cryptocurrencies, it is more to do with ups and downs. You could probably read a lot of things wherein there are several frauds, happening in the markets. People just run away with cryptocurrencies. It is probably safe to keep it in a digital locker, but then there are a lot of hackers, which can come into place. So it has never provided a stable environment, and hence it is something which is crypto, but it is not a currency, because it doesn't really serve the purpose. Obviously there are a lot of investors who have probably made money in cryptocurrency, but individually, and whatever feedback I get, cryptocurrencies are not usually safe. Probably the central banks will come up with regulations to protect the investors. See, people have lost a lot of money in cryptocurrencies recently, and no regulator or no country or no government would want people to go bust. Okay. So probably there should be regulations coming up. A lot of countries have banned it, including China, including US. There are certain regulatory interventions which are also coming in the marketplace, especially in Europe as well. So these are new things still evolving. We don't have the answers to every questions in cryptocurrency, and hence this is a subject which not many understand. And the best portion or the best part is to just stay away and be an observer in the cryptocurrency market. Nothing more than that. Okay. Coming to your second question on active investing and passive investing. See, when it comes to the capital markets, there is always a two-school thought that whether or not to do a passive investing or to do a active investing. What is passive investing is to give your money to a manager to manage. Because when you are doing your studies, you may not fully focus on the markets. You may not be used to how to value a Zomato, how to value a company. how to really go about the capital markets. So it is best, simply put, to invest your money via SIPs or in mutual funds or into ETFs. ETFs, again, index ETFs are very cost efficient. So you need to look at that. There are certain platforms like Paytm, or Zerodha, which provide you a direct option to buy your mutual fund units. They have a rating system as well. So talking about passive investing, it is clearly, if you do not have a full-time experience, or you are new to the markets, or you do not have that time or bandwidth to spend your time on equities, researching them, the best way for you is passive investing. If you are a full-time investor, if you are a full-time trader, if you want to really trade the markets every day, every month, or on an active basis, you understand the markets, then the best way is to do active investing, which is again much cost efficient to the passive investing part, because the costs involved are low. You just pay your brokerage to a broker, you use Zerodha or any online app, or you call the broker, you buy and sell securities. But for that, you need to have a dedicated research. You need to be up to date in the market, because the markets are volatile, and market is an animal. It may punish you and it may reward you. So if you do your homework well, probably you will be rewarded, and if you have not done your homework, you probably burn your hands in the capital markets. So for people who are relatively new to the markets, don't really have the time, or are not fully involved in the investing profession, passive investing is the best vehicle. For people who really understand the markets, active investment is something that you can talk about. Your third question was about
The US
investing
markets.
in the US markets. US markets are huge. They are much bigger than the Indian markets. They have much bigger companies, than the Indian markets. Obviously, there are various funds in through which you can invest in the US markets. There are various MNC funds. There are various foreign funds, wherein you can put in your money safely. There are various mutual fund houses which provide you a vehicle to invest in US equities. When it comes to direct investing in the US markets, there is always a FEMA cap, because there are various rules and regulations in which you can repatriate your money to a foreign country, which is, I think, $2 lakh per annum. And that is the money which you can directly invest. Obviously, that is not advisable, because again, not many people have their hands on to the US equities. So it is best, to invest through a mutual fund, probably do a SIP, or a US fund option. Directly investing, the market is not very big, not mature. We ourselves as investors are not mature enough to invest in the US markets. TCS and Reliance were only two companies which have crossed the $100 billion market cap mark. And you will find such 20, 30, 40, 50 companies in the US market which are above $100 billion. So, that market is very huge. That market is very rewarding. That market has made fortunes for a lot of investors, especially American citizens. Indian markets also have a lot of opportunity if you approach it with the right, discipline, so to say, because you also have created, people like Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, who are billionaire investors. You have Radhakishan Damani. You have so many people, who have made millions and billions of money in the Indian markets. On the other hand, you have people like Warren Buffett, which have made, billions of dollars in the US markets investing, and he doesn't invest in India. And Rakesh Jhunjhunwala also doesn't invest in US markets. Still, both of them are equally successful. So when it comes to the US markets, it's a subjective thing. If you like, US equities, there are ways and means in which you can put your money there. But obviously, there are regulations, there are frameworks. You have to follow that, and you can probably access the US markets in a very smooth way.
Just one question before we finally conclude our podcast with you. Because India is a developing country, the BSE index is always growing. Even say 5 years back or 7 years back, it was around 30,000. Now it is above 50,000. So coming back to the discussion which we earlier had with you, that there are only with so much of population, we only have around 5 crore Indian investors active in the
Correct.
stock market. So Is it a good thing to motivate more people to invest in Indian stock market? If it is, how does one do it? Because in India, there are only two things which sell: entertainment and cricket. For example, when last year the lockdown was announced and this famous web series Scam 1992 came and it was very successful, I think most of the teenagers plus the youngsters, 20 plus people, started taking note of what is stock market and how did Harshad Mehta do what he did. And
Correct.
so, is it a good thing or so? To
So, it is good to ask such questions. I'll tell you why. Because equity is an asset class. Okay. And there are many asset classes. Gold is an asset class. Fixed deposit also is an asset class. Real estate is also asset class. Cryptocurrency also is an asset class, but obviously there are various pros and cons for that asset class, and equities are an asset class. There are a lot of things which are now evolving. Much more information is available to investors. A lot of things on the platforms are available for investors to look and explore the stock markets. When it comes to Indian equities, obviously there is a low penetration. There is a low, awareness about the markets. 50% of the Indian population still lives in rural markets, rural areas. Obviously they are into their daily chores and probably they are not very much interested in the markets, or probably not exploring equities as an asset class. But I think gradually the awareness is moving higher. A lot of people have 4G networks on their mobile phones. They have smartphones. They have a lot of social media factor to help them explore the markets. I think it's an evolving process. It's an interesting field. And again, according to your age, according to your risk profile, according to your preference to asset class, you can have exposure to Indian equities. There will be a 70-year-old retiree who may want to put 10% of his money in equities and 90% into fixed deposit. There may be a youngster like you who probably wants to bet bigger in the markets because he see return potential. He can bear that risk. He may put 90% of his savings into capital markets. By capital markets, I mean debt markets, equity markets, bond markets. All of them put together create the capital markets. So there are balance funds, there are equity funds, there are high beta funds, there are index funds, there is the option of direct investing. So according to your risk profile, according to your age, according to your preference for equities, you can always put your money safely or with some risk into the Indian capital markets or the Indian equity markets. So you just need to consult your financial advisors, your financial partners or registered members, in the capital markets, accredited by the regulator to guide you and really visualize your thinking or your risk profile, and then creating a portfolio of asset classes for you and for your future money to grow.
So, in conclusion, I'll be finally presenting the vote of thanks. So, on behalf of the PGPBL class of 2022 and BL Insight Circle, we thank Mr. Yatin Mota for taking us through his journey and entry to the Times Group, and to then ET Now to the current role of Associate Editor at Network 18. From content hunting to making sense of the data, it's crucial to keep one's updated. Some of the key takeaways for us were fair value, understanding market value, and the concept of inefficient markets. And from an MBA student's perspective, it's more about the way of understanding the accounts and not being accountable for accounting itself and focusing more on the decision making. The
Correct.
talk also had rich discussions about cryptocurrency, active and passive investing, and US markets. I hope the viewers had multiple takeaways as we did. Thank you, sir, for taking out your time for interacting with us. Thank you to our viewers for watching, and bye bye for now.